Rome didn't build its empire on courage alone. It built it on debt. We often imagine Roman soldiers like something from a movie, proud, disciplined, unstoppable warriors. But when you look behind the scenes, it wasn't nearly that romantic. Behind those shiny helmets and razor-sharp swords was a machine that ran non-stop and cost a fortune. The soldiers' salaries, food, weapons, roads, horse feed. The list goes on. All of it meant money. So how did Rome finance this extraordinary war machine? Because understanding that tells us something about today too. In Rome's early days, most soldiers were citizens. If you owned land, you could be drafted. You brought your own weapon. And when the war was over, you just went back to your farm. But as Rome expanded, wars lasted longer and took place farther from home. At that point, just grab your gear and fight for a year just wasn't enough. A professional army became necessary. That's when the empire began paying its soldiers. The pay wasn't much, but it was enough to secure loyalty. Then came the real shift. Conquest turned into a revenue model. Every new territory meant new taxes, new slaves, new mines, new loot. War started funding more war, but it didn't end there. And here's where things get messy. Rome didn't only rely on taxes, it borrowed a lot, especially during expensive wars like the Punic Wars against Carthage. The state took massive loans from wealthy citizens. And no, not out of patriotism. These were investments. And investors expected returns, interest, tax collection rights, and commercial privileges in newly conquered regions. So war turned into a profitable industry. And as long as it paid, more wars followed. Sound familiar? Over time, the system shifted so much that generals became the real centers of power, because they promised more spoils. State functions were outsourced to private contractors, even tax collection. In today's language, Rome had a military-industrial complex, just wearing togas. Of course, the debts piled up. The more the state spent, the less the money was enough. And guess what they did exactly? They devalued the currency. Starting under Nero, the silver content of the Roman denarius was reduced. Over the next centuries, the coin lost its real value. Inflation exploded. Trust collapsed. Ordinary people paid taxes with worthless money. The wealthy converted their wealth into land and slaves. Corruption spread. The government structure fragmented, and the system slowly began to fall apart. This wasn't just a military defeat, it was an economic collapse. Now pause and look at today. Wars financed by borrowing, money printed by central banks, massive budget deficits, elites enriched by the defense sector, ordinary citizens crushed by inflation. The names changed, the mechanics stayed the same. Rome teaches us something simple but striking. If a system depends on endless growth, whether through war, money, or new markets, then the day that growth stops, everything begins to break. Because the debt remains, the expectations remain, but the income disappears. During this phase, Rome taxed its people more, printed even cheaper money, and eventually lost control. Today we call it economic policy or central bank intervention, but the logic hasn't changed. And if you don't understand this cycle, you live inside it without realizing it. But now you do. Now you can ask, who benefits from this system? And who pays the price for it? History shows us one more thing again and again. Empires don't fall because the enemy breaks the gate. They fall when the math stops working.